to the cloud. Okay, well, thank you. Thank you again for joining the Indivisible Illinois Social Justice Alliance meeting. I am going to, at this time, turn it over to Rose really fast to talk about the NAACP candidates to join us on April 1st.
Thank you. Yes, I was wondering how I could fit that in, and I didn't mention it in my introduction. So thank you, Kim. Yes, as I was discussing, we've been having these social media events every week to let folks know about the municipal elections in a lot of jurisdictions, if not mine in Chicago, and those elections are April 6th. We know from all the horrific voter suppression that is going on across the country right now, which I think is a concerted effort, that we need to fight for every vote. And that's what we are doing. So we do have our last, what we call Twitter storm. And that is on April the 1st. And also I'll drop some things in the chat. If everybody can participate, I would be so excited, but we do have a social media kit. So even if you can't attend an event, if you could at least just repost these candidates, that would be terrific. We've had some really phenomenal candidates on our event. And yes, on April the 1st, we're really excited. We have NAACP candidates. The event is going to be from 6 p.m. until 8 p.m. on that Thursday, April the 1st. And also because it's our last event, we're going to have almost an all-day affair. So from about 10 a.m. to about 6 p.m. to the start of the Twitter storm, we ask folks to post our tweets, whatever we have in our social media kit, to get the word out on these great candidates. And just to clarify, starting at 6 p.m., it's a little bit of a party. We get on a Zoom call and we use social media together. But I'll go ahead and post that information. If anybody has any questions, please let me know. But if you are able, would really appreciate it if you could support the NAACP candidates. This is something, our last hurrah here, and something I'm certainly looking forward to. And thanks for giving me the opportunity to talk about it, Kim.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rose. Thank you for sharing. Okay, at this point, I'm going to turn it over to our co-lead, Jonathan, to further facilitate this meeting and to introduce our guest speakers. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Kim. A lot of this came about. There were some discussions, but back in I think it was December, the Chicago 400 presented to the Indivisible Illinois 9 group, and it was such a powerful presentation that I thought that it would be useful to have that spread out to a broader audience. And I also wanted to hear some of the stories of some of the people, where some of these things are at, and then also have a discussion about how we can engage and work with the Chicago 400, and how we can try and help and get that, get the message out, get some assistance, whatever's needed on that. So just to understand ways we can, the Social Justice Alliance can connect with that. And I know that Lori Jo has a wonderful presentation, but I also know we have a bunch of people on here. So I don't want to take up any more time. I'm going to pass it over to her to give us a little more background on the Chicago 400, what that group is, and then let's hear some of the stories of where everybody's at.
Thanks so much for having us. We have our totally solid gold team on here. And so I was just thinking maybe I won't give the presentation. We'll let our incredible folks talk, and we can start with Terrence. And then if we need to go back to my presentation, we can. So maybe let's just do a round of introductions, and Terrence, I don't know, why don't y'all just talk and then I'll do the presentation if it seems necessary, or if it seems helpful, or if there's a specific question. Because I like to give the boring presentation to explain what all these things are, but let's start with Terrence. And we usually start with Terrence anyway. So go ahead, Terrence.
Thank you. My name is Samuel once again. I'm the newly president of the Chicago 400. Just a quick background. I ain't gonna take no more than 3 to 4 minutes. I'm 37 years old, born and raised on the south side of Chicago, Englewood community. I have 2 teenage boys, 13 and 16. I'm a full-time gospel musician. I play drums for a living, gospel and blues. Um, I've been with the Chicago 400 for 3 years, 2 to 3 years now. Been homeless for 17 years. I was incarcerated back in 2000. I don't know the year. Upon my release, I had a house. Unfortunately, once I got out, I came home for a couple of weeks, and on the second week of me being home from doing 6 months in the county jail, I found out that the house that I was staying in, I could no longer stay there due to the fact that it was by a park. Um, at that time, I was working in school, um, got kicked out of school, lost my job due to me having to go to the police station once a week to register. So that caused me to miss out on a lot of things that I was doing to try to be a better human being in society. I went back, did 30 days in jail for a felony, a warrant that I had because I didn't know that the house that I stayed at, I couldn't stay at the time. So once again, I came home, had a house. They told me it was good. They kind of found out that it wasn't. So from that time till now, um, I've been staying with family members, um, helping out at church, trying to find a job, which is hard, dealing with this pandemic. Having to go see the police every Thursday now. It's been hard, um, especially when you got kids that you look up to and you support, and you don't want them to repeat the same mistakes that you made. So you try to teach them um, best as possible, the rights and wrongs of life. And to hear your son say, "Dad, where is you born?" every week, once a week, it's devastating because no parents want to lie to their kids about anything because they didn't ask to be here. So I mean, so dealing with that, it's been hard, but I'm not giving up. Um, I had a faith, and just like other members here in the Chicago 400 that you were here, we just seeking help to change the laws. We do have a bill that I believe Lois will share in a minute that we are passing. One is that we are asking to end weekly registration, and two, we are asking to end housing banishment laws from 500 feet to 250 feet. That way we could have housing where we won't have to be kicked out of a house if the bill passed. And that's my story. Thanks for having me. And I will pass it to Ben, and he could give a background of himself. Thank you for having me again. Ben, you can speak if you it's not muted.
Yeah, this is Sam again. Can you guys hear me? It's real.
John, John, you're muted right now, but
I thought I unmuted myself. I'm sorry. I fell victim to the banishment laws in 2006, and I had to move out of an apartment I had lived in for 9 years. I was only a few months away from being off of the registration list. And by the grace of the Chicago Police Department, they said I could just use that apartment where my wife still lived as a mailing address. So I got off of the registry, but I still fell under the banishment laws. I still couldn't live anywhere. My wife passed away in 2008, and I really didn't have anywhere to go. So I've been living on a golf course for the last 12 plus years. That's been my home. And it's stressful to go every week. I mean, it's your whole life is built around that day of the week. That's how you have to do it. And it causes a lot of undue stress. There's so many people that have lost their jobs, that have been sent back to jail, that they have, you know, they can't see their kids or anything. It's ridiculous. The whole maze is ridiculous. That's why, you know, we need people to pitch in and volunteer and help us with, you know, calling your aldermen and people like that, just to get us to get something done, because it's gotten out of control. It is just so out of control. But we've done things. We've been able to get representatives and senators on our side down in Springfield. We had a art show in New York at the Drawing Center a year ago in January. And there are just so many amazing people here and that's the word, people. We're people. We're not numbers. We're not statistics. We're people. And we have to have a finish line. There has to be somewhere where they say, okay, that's enough. But that's not how it works. It just keeps going on and on and on and on. Pass it on to somebody else if they want to speak.
Yes, I would give it to Stephen. He could say his story. Then last, we'll give it to Benjamin, and we'll have Lorenzo to give a brief introduction about the bill. And if y'all have any questions, we will likely be able to answer them at the end of the conference call. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Stephen Diggs. I am 55 years old. I am a father. I am a husband. I am a grandfather. I am a son. I am a brother. I'm also a drug addiction counselor. I've been a part of Chicago for 104 the last 3 years. My story is almost just like the rest of the guys. When I came out of jail in 2007, I had a place to stay. Me and my wife stayed together for about 5 years, about 6 years. And then somebody moved to daycare in the neighborhood, and I was asked to move. Upon moving, I became homeless, and I've been homeless ever since. I just asked that we can gain support, either with social media, Twitter, Facebook, anything that could put out to help pass the bill 3913 that would be going to the floor pretty soon. I drug counsel people every day, and not just me with the homelessness. It's a lot of other people that has homelessness too. I'm just asking for support today. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Lastly, we have Benjamin. If you could briefly give an introduction.
You guys hear me? My name is Benjamin. I've been part of for like 2 years. I enjoy every moment of it and what we're striving for. We just want stability and to change what the perception is as far as with fathers, children, brothers, like Stephen said. Have stories like I wanted to go have stability, have a regular job, and I had a great opportunity where I could work Monday through Friday and have kids all really set my life.
Hey Ben, we actually can't hear you. I know what story you're telling, and I know people can't hear you. Are you? Maybe we should come back to you when you're in a different location.
Hey, can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, that's better.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's better. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, I had my headphones on. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But no, I've been a part of C400 for 2 years, and I enjoy every moment of what we're striving to do. And we're all family members part, and this thinking that's just affecting us, it really affects our family members. And I'm just grateful for the opportunities that have been presented. But the reason why we're striving for this bill is a perfect example where I had a situation where I really could have got my life on track and had a great opportunity, a job Monday through Friday, great pay, and second chance construction. Ironically was the name of the company, and I had to turn it down because of once a week, registration because you know that kills any stability and housing is the first rule of thumb where everybody strives to want to have. That's just a daily right. And all we're trying to do is open up opportunity for everyone to have stability and have housing and to really take some of the frustrations off of our family members and all our friends. They want to get the most out of us, but we can't do that because we have this every week, which is really is a damper. But with C400, we're just striving to change things, and we're looking to tell our story and connect with other groups and situations, and we're just thankful and grateful that you guys even have us here to listen. And I'm gonna just not ramble on and pass it to Lori Jo so she can give you the rest of the presentation.
Thanks, y'all. I'm really inspired to work with these folks, and there's a lot more to their stories, and let's circle back and ask them more questions. Maybe what I'll do is just give there's so much misinformation about this issue and confusion that maybe I'll just give a short presentation that kind of actually helps people with some of the definitions about public conviction registries and housing banishment laws, and also helps people understand why this is such a critical issue in terms of fighting the carceral state and in terms of racial justice and other types of social justice. It's just a really important overlooked issue. So why don't I just do that real quick? So I'm sharing, and last time I did not do this right, but now I have learned. So, okay. So this is just a slide to let you know who our partners are in this campaign. And I'm just focusing on residency restrictions right now, and a little bit about registries. So, oh, whoops, wrong computer. Let's see. Sorry, I'm getting there. Okay, so when people are talking about lining up at the police station and registering weekly, this is the people experiencing homelessness and how they were asked to line up, the Chicago 400 at the police station. This is the art show that John referenced, and that's John on the end there. The images that I'll be showing in this presentation were drawn by the Chicago 400 and were shown at this art show. So just so you know where it's coming from. So as you've already figured out, the Chicago 400 are the people in Chicago listed on public conviction registries who are also experiencing homelessness, and therefore, because of our state laws, have to register weekly at the police station. And this is the fundamental premise of our work. Our criminal justice policies should prevent victimization, support survivors, and hold people accountable for harm. And then after punishment, let people rebuild and move on with their lives. And to make sure this is happening, our policies should be evidence-based. So today, what we've been discussing and what our campaign is focusing on is the acute crisis caused by residency restrictions, which you've already heard about. These are discredited policies that permanently exclude people, very disproportionately Black men, from most housing that's non-rural for life. And by barring people from nearly all housing, we are forcing hundreds of Chicagoans into homelessness, like the Chicago 400. And we also generally keep about 1,400 people stuck in prison past their release dates because you can't leave prison if you're homeless. And we're forcing this even on people who have homes to go to. So many people have safe and welcome homes, but our laws made their housing options a crime. And that's exactly what you just heard from everyone here. Everyone had a home. So now I'm just going to go into a couple of definitions. Public conviction registries. What is that? So y'all really do know what these are, but these are laws that require the police to collect personal data and photos from people simply because they have a past criminal conviction, and then put that information on the internet. So there's an entire police apparatus to collect all this data, and that's called registration. So people have to show up at the police station annually, quarterly, or even more, you know, anytime anything changes, to give data to the police. And as people have described, if you're homeless, then you have to come in 52 times a year. I'm sorry, I'm taking a look at the chat. Oh, I thought I saw something. Okay. Which of course is difficult while you're experiencing the hardship of being homeless to also come to the police once a week. And that's what, you know, Ben was saying, you can't get a job and come in once a week and, you know, wait at the police station. So anyway, any mistake in keeping up with these administrative rules is a felony offense. So this maze of restrictions and reporting requirements is difficult, even if you're not weekly. But for weekly people, it's really difficult. So the important thing to realize here is that registries are a police project. We are moving people by the tens of thousands to police stations and moving police by the tens of thousands into domestic spaces to check to see if people reported their address correctly. So registries, and this is John's drawing on the right, by the way, registries require people with past convictions. So free people, this is not part of punishment, this is just free people, to be forced into this ongoing adversarial repressive contact with police after punishment is complete for decades or for life, because most people are on registries for life in Illinois. And this has become, not surprisingly, an engine of police abuse and reincarceration, and a huge expansion of the carceral state. Legislators, though, have sold this to the public, and these drawings are people showing their criminal justice involvement. And it is a lot of failure to register charges, you know, people not, don't even get me started. Okay. But legislators have sold this to the public as a form of public safety. But how? How is it? In Illinois, some 47% of the population has an arrest or conviction on the record. But then we go in and just list thousands of people with these convictions on the internet, sorted out by convictions. So Illinois has conviction registries for violent offenses against youth, murder, meth manufacturing, arson, and of course, sex offense registration, which everyone knows about. And Chicago has a gun conviction registry. We have alarming rates of people listed on registries. So in Illinois, 1 in every 212 men in our state is listed on the sex offense registry at this point. For Black men, it's 1 in 84. 1 in 84 Black men in our state are listed on the sex offense registry. If you look at all the public conviction registries, it's 1 in 145 men are listed on any registry, or it's not even all of them actually, but anyway. And for Black men, that's 1 in 42. 1 in 42 Black men in our state is listed on one of these public conviction registries. And what this is like in 2008 or 9 when Pew, came out with this data that 1 in 100 Americans were incarcerated. And it was like, oh my gosh, we've just been doing this policy after policy, tough on crime thing, bill law after law, until now so many people are incarcerated, we can't even ignore it. And that's what's happened with registries. Legislators just say, let's just do that, this will be tough on crime, this will be tough on crime over and over. To the point now, who really bears the brunt of this? Poor people, Black men bear the brunt of this suburban, legislators passing bill after bill. Not just suburban, I mean everyone, but. So obviously the racial disparities themselves are the end point of many other processes with disproportionate racial outcomes. Race is a proxy for class, race, geography. I won't go into too much detail about that. I'm going to move on because I feel like this group probably understands that. But addressing the many pathways to interpersonal and community violence requires addressing the whole health of the family, the whole health of the community, investing in true well-being and social welfare, and ending inequality. People need help and prevention through their lives in every type of form, which we don't have right now. Healthcare, mental health care, behavioral health care, what Stephen does, which is support for people in recovery, sex ed, relationship ed, reentry support. We don't do that. None of these registry laws or housing banishment laws prevent child neglect, adverse childhood experiences, exposure to violence. In fact, these policies we're supporting lead to social breakdown. But one thing is clear, gun violence, sexual violence, domestic violence, robbery, child abuse are not prevented by listing people with past convictions on the internet. And the research on crime desistance is also clear. People need to have a positive framework for and a path for the future in material terms and also in how they view themselves. And that means housing and jobs. It means strong ties to family and community, hope for the future, recognition of worth from others, and all that these policies take away. So that's why we have this campaign where advocates for crime survivors, our main partners are CASE, who are victim advocates, housing advocates, treatment providers, police accountability activists, and people committed to racial equality and others are working together to support the Chicago 400 in challenging these laws. We know the life-shattering impact of violence and of incarceration, and we're tired of watching our state force people into homelessness and damaging their families when they are leading positive, productive lives, and they are great people. And so we are supporting them. So we don't have time today to talk about housing banishment laws, public space banishment laws. So I'm gonna go straight to housing banishment and then I'll wrap it up there. But I just want to point out that we have very casually banished our fellow human beings, not just from housing, but also from public spaces for life. And this is something we're not even addressing because we're so concerned about getting people housing. But how casually we have done this, that people aren't even aware of it. We have banished people from public space. And it's illegal for people to go into public spaces. Okay. Let's just talk about residency restrictions, which these gentlemen have already talked about, but these are just laws that bar you from living 500 feet around property lines that constantly change of schools, playgrounds, daycares, parks, etc. for life. These are regularly spaced institutions. Parks are not supposed to be part of it, but they're enforced. So when you put a 1.5 block radius around all of these places, you are banished from the neighborhood. You're banished from non-rural housing. This is in Champaign-Urbana, and everything not in this map is like a graveyard or an urban area. It's not residential, or it's a park or something. And not even everything is included in these maps. When you add up all the neighborhoods together, it's a blackout. So people are banished from most housing. Not even everything is included in this map. So the red zones are what people are banished from, and the green is where you would be permitted to live, assuming there's an affordable open place for rent, So given this, it should not surprise you that 1/5 of the people on the registry in Chicago are homeless, whatever, okay. And 80% of those who are homeless are Black men from the west and south sides of Chicago. Most of the people in the Chicago 400, that's the Chicago 400, the people who are homeless on registries in Chicago, had stable housing until these banishment zones shifted. And then we made their housing illegal. And most people in the Chicago 400 have already been rearrested and sent to prison to do time, actual prison time, for a failure to follow one of these administrative reporting requirements, like registering weekly, or at the very worst, living somewhere that you don't report. And why would you do that? You would do that because it is Chicago and you need to live somewhere, and everywhere has been made illegal. So you might stay somewhere that you've been banished from. Of course you would, right? I don't lie about my address because I get to live inside. So the one other thing I wanted to say about this, because I think it's quite important, is that, well, I can't remember if I said this, I'm sorry. Let me go back to this. If you do live somewhere and one of these places opens up, your home is illegal. So everyone is always unstable, and that means their kids are always unstable. And we can talk more about that when we go back to questions and talk to the guys. But the important thing to know, or a very important thing to know, these laws are fully discredited laws. They do not improve public safety. They harm public safety. And that's why many states don't have them at all, because they studied the laws and analyzed them and said, wow, this doesn't help. So the Minnesota Department of Corrections, for example, analyzed sex offense convictions in detail for over a 12-year period and found 0 cases in which residency restrictions would have even been relevant to new crimes, much less prevented them. And they were testing 1-mile restrictions. Other states found the same thing. They also found that taking away people's human needs and causing social breakdowns and forcing people into homelessness does not help. It can only increase crime, because generally making large populations of people homeless is a negative thing that we would not do on purpose. And so that, just as an example, the Kansas Department of Corrections proudly announces on their website that they don't use residency restrictions because they're BS, essentially. They write that. I can send the link to their website. Likewise, this, well, I guess let me go back to this for a second. So why don't these laws work? Well, they make no sense, but I won't get into that. Why would they work? But there's a flaw in all these laws. The flaw is that the supermajority of new arrests or convictions for sex offenses, and that's 98% were like this in Minnesota in that study, are by people not on registries. So people with no previous convictions or no previous sex offense convictions. People on registries are overwhelmingly not likely to commit a new offense and overwhelmingly able to move on with their lives after punishment and be productive. Likewise, this well-known New York study found that 95% of new sex offense convictions are from people not on registries. It also found the registry ineffective, which is what it was studying. And these are just arrests. This is just reported abuse. Unreported abuse is far more likely to be from people not on registries. So this is where victim advocates are partners in this, because they say this constant focus on registries and strangers and everything else causes people to ignore that the vast majority of sexual offending is unreported and takes place in people's own homes, communities, families, workplaces, etc. And this is just what Me Too showed us, that sexual harm is committed by ordinary people in our lives. But once people are reported, arrested, convicted, or simply get help for one of the many pathways that can lead to interpersonal harm or community violence or sexual offending, they overwhelmingly will not commit a new offense. So in our system, sexual misconduct happens a lot, reporting rates are low, and our system has so little to offer survivors that many would rather handle it on their own or do absolutely nothing than report. So our system is not working, and that's why we have victim advocates. And they say, and we say, don't punish the very few people who actually were held accountable, are responsible, and have been punished. But these laws were never about public safety to begin with, as I already alluded to. Legislators piled on registry and banishment laws, and they were able to then run direct mail flyers that they were tough on crime. And what our victim allies say, and here's an example of them saying it recently in the press, registries have been used to exploit sexual violence for re-election campaigns, not prevent it. So instead of true prevention and addressing underreporting, we're targeting and scapegoating the very people who have been held accountable. So I'll leave it at that. I guess, well, actually, let me just say one more thing. And that's why we should not use those terms, SO, or any other type of label for people. We use people first language, people with past convictions, people with past sex offense convictions, because people are real people. These are some Chicago 400 members who are waiting outside the police station with their cards that give them a place in line for them to wait all day. When we use these labels, it implies that people are destined to reoffend when the vast majority will not. And that probability, by the way, drops predictably after time spent free in the community. Many people, most people immediately, but many people very quickly after conviction have an unremarkable probability of committing a new offense. After 5 years, it plummets for anyone. And after 10 years, almost all people reach what's called the redemption point, which is where the probability of a new sex offense is not significant. And it's actually unremarkable. And it's no greater than the probability for anyone with any criminal record, or for people who are actually at a heightened probability of committing a sex offense, which are young men aged 16 to 22. So they end up having the same probability. So I just think that's sometimes helpful for people to know that these laws are completely counter to best practices, and they cause so much harm to people who are still our neighbors. So now I really will leave it at that. And this is another drawing by John.
Thank you so much for that, Laurie. Joe, that was great. That looks like Rose has some questions there, a couple questions there in the chat. I guess she's asking about the champions in the Illinois Assembly and in City Council. And was any of this what did the criminal justice reform bill that just passed and was recently signed this year, did that have any impact on any of this aspect of our system?
So that bill, originally the Legislative Black Caucus were trying to get that bill in there, trying to get our bill that Terrence already described, to just open up housing a little bit. All we're asking is to change the restrictions from 500 feet to 250 feet and to end weekly. Weekly is insane. It's an insane policy, which most people agree with. So the General Assembly, when we meet with them, they're like, we know, we've gone too far. I mean, they know. Our champion has been, so they were trying to get this in the criminal justice package, but we did not get it in that package. Mainly because people, we and our partners haven't done enough work to do public education on this issue. And it's a sensitive issue for legislators, but they were supportive. And Justin Slaughter did introduce our bill, who, he was the co-chair of that, the co-sponsor of that bill. Of course, a lot of people worked on it. And he then transferred sponsorship to Representative Lilly, who's going to be fighting for it and is fighting for it. We also have a co-sponsor, Representative Cassidy, because she's been working with us with police to try to improve the policies of police. So that's a separate issue. We do have champions. The thing is, we just need to show our champions more support, and and this is the philosophy of the Chicago 400 campaign. I don't think I showed this slide, and maybe I won't kill you with another slide, but the idea is that the Chicago 400 are in the middle of the campaign, the center. The rest of us need to all pick up some of the slack and not put it all on the Chicago 400 to completely undo 30 years of policies while they're experiencing homelessness and trying to take care of their kids and everything else. That we can all take a piece of that stigma, a piece of that work, and pitch in together. And so that's why we have all these groups from all these different perspectives. They're like, this is not helpful policy, you know, from all these perspectives. So you could join the Alliance and help support the Chicago 400. The best actions to take, which I see is on here, and Terrence and others mentioned this, we have a lot of different volunteer activities, but Terrence and Stephen, I believe both mentioned social media is a big deal for us because we need people to see that there is support for changing these laws. I mean, that's the whole thing with legislators, right? They don't want to be alone. They don't want to be out on a limb. They want to see that there's public support. And then there's a million other ways to help, which would be contacting legislators from around the state. Because what we do, and I can put a link to this, but Terrence, Ben, John, Stephen, and others, Zakia, we have others on the campaign, have been to just hundreds of meetings like this one, where they speak directly to legislators. And I don't give my whole spiel. They speak directly to legislators, but it's because somebody has invited them. Somebody has said, you're my legislator. I want you to hear from the Chicago 400. I want you to know what your laws are doing. And then you invite them to the meeting, and me and maybe a victim advocate. We put it together. We all meet together. We need people to do that, to reach out to their legislators.
Excellent.
Thank you
And
so much.
I think there was a specific bill that was mentioned. A couple people mentioned a particular bill. Is that at the state level? And is that something currently being in hearings, or where's that at right now? Oh, okay, there you go. HB3913, great.
Well, yesterday was the last day to get through House hearings. But we are still having subject matter hearings on the bill. And that's another way that people can help, is bringing people to those hearings and bringing your legislators to those hearings, because we're trying to have, so I won't go into details, but there's a lot of support that people could give in addition to social media and just volunteering.
Right. Just for perspective, yeah, the first part of the legislative session I know did end yesterday, but I know in a couple of weeks they will be back in session and reconsidering a lot, and further consideration of a lot of these things. So it's just a matter of getting enough attention on some of these bills to get them to move forward. And I'm guessing that's part of where this one sits. So, all right. Any other questions people have they want to put out? I guess I will toss out something that that Matthew and I were actually tossing around in terms of he and I both volunteer and work, and he's actually on the board with Chicago Market. And Chicago Market is a food cooperative that's trying to get off the ground in Uptown, and it's kind of come to the attention that as far as serving and representing the whole community includes serving and representing the homeless community, or unhoused community, I guess is the current terminology for that. And so it's, there's a question of, okay, we've got some stuff that he and I have been working with that have been trying to get, produce and products and stuff that are local, that's locally made and locally done out to consumers. I don't know if there's anything in terms of, what comes to my mind would be soap or other basic products or stuff, for people that some of these people that are struggling to hold down full-time jobs, if they can at least, if there's crafts or there's art or there's other types of things that a venue like Chicago Market or others might be able to help elevate the profile, as well as help, at least put a few dollars in somebody's pocket, by getting that product out somewhere. I don't know if there's a path or an avenue for that, or if you guys have explored some of that, but I at least wanted to at least toss the idea out there for consideration.
If I could mention just one other thing on that, while we would love something that we could impact and that could impact locally, listening to you guys are obviously so global in this, or at least national in this, where you're understanding things from different states. It doesn't help us necessarily directly here, but even if you know of something in another state or another area that this is happening with, because we're connected to other co-ops in the country, would be happy to pass along that information too, and then, you know, maybe learn. So even if you know of something that's out of our area that couldn't impact directly today, but we could learn from elsewhere, any of that sort of information would be good too. Really no limit to what could help.
Thank you so much. I think, you know, for us, we do want to do direct aid fundraising for people. We need to find housing support. We're doing advocacy with police, but the most important thing that we need people to do is help right here in this state right now with your legislator, because this is a campaign that we're going to win or lose, you know, and there's a time limit on it. And so we need this burst of help right now during the legislative session that's specifically to our legislators and is specifically asking them to help and is specifically getting on social media to support the Chicago 400, because we need to be popular and we need to look popular, because legislators will not, you know, that's what they respond to. They are political people. So I guess I mean, after we, you know, win or lose this part, I think there's a lot more capacity. I mean, John, JC, others, I mean, we've got musicians, you know, there is a lot of capacity for us to do.
Yeah, this was not right. That question was not a short-term question.
Yeah,
You've got to
yeah.
right now.
Right.
Fully understand that that's the priority at the moment. So thank you. Lori.
Yeah, so I have a question. As far as like when the next session convenes, then what's the window for HB 3913?
Basically, we have until May to get this bill passed, and we missed this deadline to get through committee. But if you've got the power, you can always do something. You can always make it happen. So it is really May. Like the fact that they're not in session, you know what that means? That means we meet with them Monday, because they're not in session. So now we can meet with them. So the second you call a legislator and ask for an appointment, we're ready, you know. So really it's kind of like go from now to May. And what we're planning to do is have subject matter hearings, and we should have a lot more press on that as well, because we've had not very good press for various reasons, but we've also had good press in the past as well. But anyway, it's kind of, yeah, so we're ready. As soon as you're ready to contact your legislator, we're ready. And I have let me give you the handout on this, and I can mail this to y'all, email y'all all these things together so you have it in one place as well. Chicago 400 folks, do you have something to say? I mean, that you all have been speaking and meeting after meeting with legislators, et cetera. Do you have anything to say about your experiences doing that? Or how it's gone when you talk to legislators?
Yeah, very quickly, because I was getting dressed. Talking to legislators and meeting with senators, we had our ups and downs, but I can say now that we do have a very wonderful person. Right, her name is Senator Lily, who is willing to sponsor us and fight for us to get this bill done. Without her support and effort and putting her life on the line and her hard work on the line, I don't think we will have a sponsor. So with her support, I think we are moving in the right direction. So I appreciate her for her effort and helping us to really try to push this bill. And anybody else who's could chime in on that, if John or Steve want to add anything else to it.
I put the link, and what the link shows you how to call your legislator. And because what we do is we ask people to call your legislator and ask for an appointment, but then you drag us into it, and then we're all there together. So you're not, all alone trying to explain these tough issues. We bring Chicago 400 members, victim advocate, housing advocate, whoever can come. We come as a team, and that's actually a much better way to organize, because a legislator can say no to an individual. It's harder to say no to a team.
And it sounds like Senator Lilly and Representative Cassidy are the champions right now, but then everybody else pretty much needs to be reached out to, is what I'm getting. Okay.
I mean, especially kind of suburban people and people around the state, but honestly, there's also still a lot of Black Caucus members that we need to reach. So if you have someone, it still doesn't hurt for them to hear from you again. They can say, we already met with you, but that's fine. They'd still be hearing from you. Terrence was just saying, I always think it's kind of funny, because I have never had such a good experience lobbying as I have with the Chicago 400. I mean, they kill it every time. Like, legislators are like, oh my God, wow. They do a great job. But the thing is, we did have trouble getting a bill sponsor. I mean, Representative Lilly always wanted to do it, but we've had trouble in the Senate. So anyway, it's really mostly a positive experience. The only negative, we've been to Springfield, obviously we want people to jump up and do more, but really it's pretty good. So don't fear it. Yeah.
So, yeah, I had a question. So my rep is Kelly Cassidy, but I was thinking, like, NWSOFA has a lot of members in the suburbs. Are there specific legislators that you would suggest targeting because they might be on the fence, or they might be more likely to take the ball and
Thank you for asking that and reminding me of something. And also, I know that we're over your time, so we'll stop talking soon. But thank you for asking that, Lori, because even if your rep is Lilly or Cassidy, there's a huge role for you, which is thanking them and empowering them to do this. Because Cassidy wrote me the other day with an email from somebody downstate who wrote her, and she said, this is the first positive email I've gotten. I've been trolled, I've been attacked, I've been told I'm a horrible person. This is the first thank you I've gotten. So she needs to know people in her district appreciate her. And the same thing happened with Lilly. We don't have anyone in Lilly's district. That's like kind of a more wealthy district or whatever. I don't even know, but we don't even have anyone in her district, and she's doing this. So we found some people in her district to thank her, but I worked on the campaign to close TAM Supermax, and seriously, 60% of our energy was not to our opponents, it was to our champions, because we had to just thank them and keep them going, so being in touch with Cassidy would actually be great. But to your question, okay, that would be amazing, Rosemary, thank you. Central Illinois and Southern Illinois, we got no one. And generally the suburbs, I mean, they're pretty receptive to the issue. And there's some people, there's quite a few people who have lost their housing, who are middle-class people who, I'm working with 4 people who are losing their housing right now. It's not easy for middle-class people to lose their housing. I would not want to lose my housing, but for poor people, you can't recover, So those people are calling their suburban reps, and they're very receptive. They're receptive. The question is, will they vote? Will they hear from enough people? So it's the story of politics.
And which committee is this stuck in right now?
It's in the House Judiciary Committee.
House Judiciary Committee, okay.
Yeah, but we will be doing joint hearings across several committees, and hopefully including housing, restorative justice. This is really a housing issue, not a criminal justice issue. This is people with past convictions. We're just making them homeless, but then we'll do two Senate committees. So anyway, I know, let me let y'all take back over. Thank you for your kindness and attention. Nobody from the Chicago 400 leave, because there's going to be a picture.
Yeah, I think that's where we're going to go. I'm going to turn it over to Rose to help coordinate that and make that happen.
So let's see your beautiful faces. I think we lost Ben.
Oh,
Ben,
no.
are you? Let's see if we can get.
Note to self, do this on the front end next time. Yes, if, I know how it goes myself, but if you can be on camera, please do so. And I'm
Terrence, can
just,
you come closer? Can you make your face closer to the camera? We want your beautiful face.
much better. Yeah, I have a background in marketing and my brain is just spinning, just trying to figure out what's the best way to get the word out. And I think step one, maybe just taking a picture, not all of our members are here, but just showing solidarity, Indivisible Illinois, who are monsters on social media, more so than me. I have issues with Facebook, but